lobs a perfect pass to Woodashik on the Redskin 33.
The 1960s were a different breed of football. No fancy weight rooms, no supplements, no recovery science. Just blood, grit, and pure iron strength. These were blue-collar monsters who hit, lifted, and played through pain. Today, we're counting down the 10 strongest NFL players of the 1960s. The men who turned natural strength into football dominance. Before modern strength programs and protein shakes, NFL players built muscle the hard way. Farm work, push-ups, beer curls, and two-a-days in 100-degree heat. Back then, the weight room was for meatheads, but the men on this list prove that raw power wins championships. These are the legends who made toughness their trademark, the true Iron Men of the 1960s. Number 10. Gino Marchetti. A World War II veteran turned NFL enforcer, Gino Marchetti was the definition of old-school strength. He didn't lift for show, he lifted to survive. At 6'4", 245 pounds, Gino anchored one of the toughest defenses in history, throwing linemen around like they were made of paper. The guy once broke his leg in the 1958 championship game and still tried to re-enter the game. That's strength you can't measure on a barbell. Teammates said Gino's arms felt like concrete blocks and that his handshake alone could crush a man's fingers. He was built for battle, and he played like every down was one. Number 9. Ray Nitschke. If Vince Lombardi built a human sledgehammer, it would have looked like Ray Nitschke. Nitschke's off-season training included flipping tractor tires and wrestling farm equipment. Literally, he didn't have fancy form or lifting shoes, just relentless drive. Teammates called him the Intimidator because his hits made grown men question their career choices. His physical strength wasn't just in muscle. It was in the way he imposed his will on every snap. Legend has it that in training camp, Nitschke once headbutted a blocking sled so hard it dented the metal frame. That's not gym strength. That's farm-bred fury. Number 8. Ernie Ladd.
Now one of the world's great wrestlers, Ernie Ladd.
They called him the Big Cat, and for good reason. At 6'9" and 315 pounds, Ernie Ladd was one of the biggest and strongest humans to ever play football in the 1960s. He bench pressed well over 400 pounds in an era where most linemen didn't even know their bench max. He dominated the NFL and AFL before becoming a professional wrestler, where his freak strength turned into a whole second career. He was a true outlier, a mountain who could move like a middle linebacker. Opponents said lining up across from Ladd was like trying to block a telephone pole. You didn't move him, you just prayed he'd get bored and move himself. Number 7. Bob Lilly. Mr. Cowboy wasn't just a great technician, he was one of the first defensive linemen who trained like a power athlete. Lilly used a combination of weightlifting and leverage drills to explode off the line with unmatched power. Teammates said he could toss a 260-pound lineman aside with one arm. His strength was functional, not just in the weight room, but in every bull rush and hand punch that made him the anchor of the early Cowboys dynasty. He was quiet and methodical, and when the ball snapped, he turned into a bulldozer. Coaches said Lilly didn't just beat you, he dismantled you piece by piece. Before we jump into the top 6, hit that like button if you respect the real Iron Men, the guys who built their power out of grit, steak, and old school barbell steel. The players coming up next didn't just use their strength, they defined what it meant to be strong in the NFL. Number 6. Bob Young. If there was a Mount Rushmore of NFL weight room warriors, Bob Young would be front and center. Even in the late 60s, before most teams had proper gyms, Young was benching over 500 pounds and squatting numbers that sounded made up. He was obsessed with training before it was cool. Teammates said he'd finish practice and go lift again. His pure strength became legendary, and by the time he hit his prime, he was one of the strongest men to ever wear pads. Young later competed in actual powerlifting meets and even went head-to-head with world champions. He was proof that football and strength training could coexist and thrive. Number 5. Deacon Jones. The man who invented the head slap. Deacon Jones didn't just overpower linemen, he terrified them. His upper body strength was explosive, and his hand power was unmatched. He could knock a tackle's helmet off with one swing. Deacon once said, "You take all the muscle in the world and put it on one man. That was me." He wasn't lying. His combination of strength and violence changed how defensive ends trained forever. Jones once broke a teammate's face mask during a practice drill because he forgot to hold back. When Deacon lined up, quarterbacks flinched before the snap. He made strength a weapon. Number 4, Dick Butkus. If strength had a personality, it would have been Dick Butkus. He wasn't just a linebacker, he was a predator. At 6'3", 245 pounds, Butkus hit like a car crash and bench pressed more than most linemen. His arms were like steel cables, and when he wrapped you up, it was over. Even other players admitted they were scared of him.
He's gonna kick mine. You know what?
Butkus turned pure strength into psychological warfare, and he never turned it off. In practice, coaches had to remind him not to end careers. His tackles weren't just hits, they were statements. Butkus made strength personal. Number 3, Jim Brown. You can't talk about strength in football without mentioning Jim Brown. At 6'2", 232 pounds, he was a track athlete, a lacrosse champion, and arguably the most complete physical specimen of the 20th century. He didn't lift like today's pros, but his natural power was freakish. Brown's leg drive and balance were superhuman. Defenders said tackling him felt like hitting a brick wall that moved faster than you could blink. He led the league in rushing 8 times. That's strength that lasts. Stories from the 60s say Brown could drag 2 defenders 5 yards while talking trash the whole way. He made strength look effortless, like it was just part of being Jim Brown. Number 2, Gene Lipscomb. Before modern strength testing, Gene Lipscomb was the test. At 6'6", 285 pounds, he was a monster in the trenches who could bench over 400 pounds back when that was mythical. His nickname wasn't just for show. Big Daddy was the strongest man in football according to his peers. He'd ragdoll linemen, crush running backs, and smile while doing it. Tragically, his life was cut short, but his legacy as one of football's first true power athletes lives on. One opponent said after a game, "Big Daddy didn't tackle me. He picked me up and put me down somewhere else." That about sums it up. Number 1, Jim Parker.
Running over a pedestrian and just psych myself up before every play.
If you wanted to move Jim Parker, you needed a bulldozer, and even then you might fail. At 6'3", 275 pounds, Parker was one of the first true strength technicians in NFL history. He combined perfect balance, raw muscle, and unmatched hand power. He could absorb a bull rush and send a 260-pound defender flying backward. Parker set the standard for what an offensive lineman should be: strong, disciplined, and immovable. Vince Lombardi once said, "He's the best I've ever seen." Coming from Lombardi, that says it all. Parker's blend of power and precision redefined line play, and his legend still echoes in every modern guard who tries to protect a quarterback. The 1960s were the NFL's Iron Age, when strength came from dirt, discipline, and defiance. No sports science, no personal trainers, just raw, natural power and a refusal to quit. From Jim Parker's immovable blocks to Deacon Jones' violent hands, these men built the foundation for what strength training in football would become. They didn't just change the game, they forged it. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed that breakdown. Do us a favor, smash that like button and subscribe for the next countdown. And tell us in the comments, who is the strongest player of the 1960s? See you on the next one.